The night air was thick with silence, broken only by the distant hoots of an owl. Amavi Shika crouched behind the dense shrubs on the edge of the forest, her heart pounding like the drums at a village festival. Sweat trickled down her face, mixing with the tears she fought to suppress. She could see them now, the men who had taken him, their shadows flickering under the dim lantern light. In the middle of the camp, tied to a crooked tree, was Yao Kpesese, the love of her life. His head hung low, blood smeared on his once bright shirt. He looked broken, and for a moment, Shika felt the weight of her past trying to hold her back. "You can't save him, Shika. You're just a prostitute. Nothing good comes from you," the voice in her head whispered. But this time, she refused to listen. Yao had shown her what love and hope could feel like. Now it was her turn. Shika had not always been someone people admired. Born into poverty in a small village outside Ho, she grew up surrounded by hardship. Her father had left when she was young, and her mother, a frail woman, worked herself to death trying to make ends meet. Hunger and desperation had pushed Shika into the unforgiving streets of the city. For years, she earned her living the only way she knew how, her beauty both a blessing and a curse. But everything changed the day she met Yao Kpesese. Yao was the younger son of the influential Kpesese family, well-educated, ambitious, and full of dreams. Unlike the others who looked at Shika with scorn or desire, Yao saw something different in her. One afternoon, as she sat alone at a dusty roadside food stall, trying to swallow a dry morsel of curry, Yao had approached her with a soft smile. "You look like you've had enough of this world," he said gently, sitting across from her. Shika glared at him, used to men playing tricks, but his eyes held no judgment, only curiosity. "What do you want?" she spat. "To know you," he replied simply. From that day, Yao became a constant presence in her life. At first, Shika kept pushing him away. She didn't trust kindness, didn't believe in good men. Yet Yao persisted. He spoke to her of his dreams to start his own agricultural business, his desire to lift his people, and his belief in second chances. Slowly, Yao peeled away the walls she had built around herself. And, against all odds, Shika fell in love. But love was never enough for society. The moment Yao introduced her to his family, Shika knew they would never accept her. Yao's mother, Madame Della, had narrowed her eyes the second she laid them on Shika. His older brothers scoffed loudly, asking Yao why he was stooping so low. "She's not one of us," his cousin said bluntly one evening. "She'll stain our name." Friends whispered behind their backs. Shika could handle the insults, she'd lived with worse, but seeing Yao caught between his love for her and the disapproval of his family hurt more than she cared to admit. "You don't owe me anything, Yao," she told him one day, ready to walk away. Yao took her hand firmly. "You are my choice, Shika. Not theirs." It was that choice that led Yao to this forest, kidnapped by men who had been sent to extort money from his wealthy family. The Kpesese clan, though powerful, had many enemies. When the kidnappers demanded a ransom, chaos erupted. Yao's family had the money, but they couldn't agree on a plan. Days passed. The police offered no solutions. Hope seemed to wane, except for Shika. "Let me try," she had pleaded with Madame Della. "I know people. I know how to find him." Madame Della had laughed bitterly. "What can you do that we cannot?" "Save your son," Shika said fiercely. It wasn't approval that Shika wanted, it was a chance. And now, here she was, crouched in the dark, her heart racing as she pulled a small knife from her waistband. She had bribed a petty criminal in town for information and tracked the kidnappers alone. She knew the risk, but Yao's life was worth it. Inching closer to the camp, Shika waited for the right moment. The men were arguing loudly, their backs to her. She slipped through the shadows until she reached Yao. His head lifted slightly as she knelt beside him, sawing at the ropes. Shika, he whispered hoarsely, his eyes widening with disbelief. "SHH, we are going home," she said, her voice steady. Hours later, as the sun rose over the Kpesese mansion, Yao stumbled through the gates with Shika by his side. The household erupted with shouts and tears. Madame Della rushed to her son, her face etched with worry. "You're safe," she cried, holding him tightly. Yao turned to Shika, his voice firm. "She saved my life when no one else could." The family stared at Shika, who stood covered in dirt and bruises. For the first time, Madame Della looked at her with something other than disdain. It was respect. Weeks later, the village buzzed with talk of the couple. Yao had publicly declared his intention to marry Shika, silencing his critics. At the engagement ceremony, Madame Della approached Shika, holding out a beautifully woven kente cloth. "For my daughter," she said softly. Shika's breath hitched, and tears filled her eyes as she accepted it. Yao smiled at her, pride shining in his gaze. "I told you love wins," he whispered. In the end, Shika was no longer just a woman with a past, she was Amavi Shika, a woman redeemed by love, courage, and her unwavering belief in herself.